look at this powerhouse stacked group. Brazil, Japan, Nigeria, and Spain all looking to advance out of the group and ultimately make their way to a trophy at the top of the podium. Darian, you're shaking your head here. Group of death? Yes? No? How
yes,
terrifying.
Group of death. It's hard to even try to predict who's going to come out of that, but that is going to be such a fun group. Lots of goals, really defined styles of play from each of these teams. All of them love possession. Well, sans Nigeria, but I think that they can show that they can play spoiler to them. I don't know if Nigeria will make it out of this group. I do think they can cause problems. But what a tough group. Brazil wanting it for Marta. Japan wanting vengeance from the World Cup where they looked so good. Spain, the reigning World Cup champions. I mean, this is going to be such a fun group to watch.
Absolutely entertaining and chaotic to come from this. Let's start with Spain, the reigning world champions. This is their first ever Olympic Games.
Just crazy to say.
Yeah. Crazy. It's the way that the UEFA qualifying works. They've never been able to qualify before, but now they head to Paris with a huge target on their back. Only 6 changes from last summer's World Cup winning roster. How does Spain, Christine, meet the world's expectations to win gold?
I feel like they have been so good and so successful in every tournament we've seen them, and each individual player has been performing at the top level for their clubs that it would be hard. I feel like the expectations are high, but they're warranted. You've got Ballon d'Or Bon Mati to contend with, and that's more than enough, but they have an absolutely stacked roster. It's absolutely insane. Alexia Putellas, Bon Mati, Paredes, they're lethal, right? Like, they have a lot of firepower, and they're just very regimented at this point.
So what could be the Achilles heel of Spain?
They concede. I mean,
could. I said could be.
Couldn't have been more of an obvious answer I just gave you. But the defensive part for me, where they get so overconfident on the ball that they send so many numbers forward that they concede some silly goals that should be shut down earlier on the pitch. We've seen this in the friendlies leading up to the Olympics. Last World Cup, they lost to Japan. A lot of that on their own mistakes. Yeah.
Capitalize on the errors.
Capitalizing on errors. So it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust defensively, because this is not an easy tournament. There's no easy games in this tournament where you're thinking, oh, this can be kind of a blowout, especially in this group. It's going to be interesting to see how they adjust and maybe stay a little bit more safe, pragmatic in that back line, as opposed to sending everybody up high at the half.
Being as this is Spain's first Olympics, and there is such a quick turnaround between the group stage, and there's only 12 teams. From a logistical standpoint, how does Spain management and scouting and the players approach this tournament than they would have a World Cup?
You have to be a little bit more serious about who's going to be able to exploit you, in my opinion. Like I said, there's not an easy game. There's not as much leeway between the matches where you have time to recover, you have time to kind of readjust, recalibrate. It's go, go, go. It's the freaking Olympics. So it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust to that, how they try to shut down the likes of Brazil, Nigeria, Japan, and keep adjusting, because once you spot a weakness, what's fun about this is when you see a team that has a weakness, the next game's coming quickly. How are you able to do this without much training time in that short amount of time to try to fix the issues at hand? But I don't know.
And ultimately capitalize on the mistakes you see from your opposition in the group stage. Well, Spain will take on Japan first, and Japan are headed to their second consecutive Olympics. They're coming off a World Cup in which they performed well, defeating Spain 4-0 before ultimately being knocked out by Sweden in the quarterfinals. And they take on Spain in the opening group stage match. Christine, what redemption is Japan looking for?
Oh, Japan have been here before. They have won World Cups. They know what they're doing. They are always very well organized in their play, which is just remarkable. Very good about how they move as a team. They're more than capable of beating big teams, and they've shown that in the past. I think Spain is just an example, but they also made it into the knockouts, the quarterfinals with Sweden, who, only really beat them due to their prowess and set pieces. So they're decent defensively. They just need to score goals.
Being in such a tough group, Darian, do you foresee Japan getting out of this group?
I actually do. I think Spain and Japan are going to get out of this group. Japan is so disciplined. I think they have a really defined style of play that is so hard for other teams to compete against and to break down unless it's on set pieces. The weaknesses of each team are so interesting, and Japan, every time that you think that they're going to win, they're susceptible to set pieces, and I think it's a physicality factor that they just cannot match.
And just size.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun to watch, but they have such a beautiful style of play. I don't think that Brazil and Nigeria are going to be able to stop them. I think Spain's going to give them the biggest pushback. So, yeah, those are my two making it out of the group.
Ooh, and that's the first match we get in this group.
Yeah.
Japan and Spain. Yes. Oh, I'm excited
for that. I don't know, man.
I'm
I have high hopes for Brazil a little bit. I really do.
Yeah? Okay, let's talk about Brazil. This is a side that has participated in every single Olympics, every single competition. So this is their 8th time heading to an Olympics. However, they have gotten better since the World Cup. They didn't make it out of the group stage last summer, but in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup, Brazil looked pretty good. What has changed, Christine, for Brazil to prepare themselves for this Olympics? You said they're getting out of the group.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's lofty that I want them to get out of the group. I just feel like they've been knocking at the door for so long, and you have tons of talent. You have Carlin back in the mix, which is wonderful because we haven't seen her for regular season, which is kind of wild. We have Marta's final, presumably Olympics, and it would be wonderful to see her go out on top. But that aside, like, they play so well together. It really is like joga bonito, and you hope to see that at the Olympics.
What style of play do you expect to see from Brazil in Paris?
Enjoying the ball, a lot of beautiful creativity, 1v1 artists, bold shots being taken. My biggest red flag about Brazil is the goalkeeping position. I think we've saw some really unorthodox things in the W Gold Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And it ended up working out for them. A really aggressive goalkeeper, high off of her line, looking to link play. But I don't know if this is the tournament where you can get away with being a little bit outlandish from the back line, which we've seen Brazil do. Yes, I think they have immense attack. Yes, Marta, I would love for them to advance, do it for Marta, her last Olympics, which is so sad to say. But they're in the toughest group of the tournament. I don't see it happening.
The sprinkle of magic dust that Brazil has is for Marta.
Yeah.
And having the group band together around her, the fact that she is going to be there and help lift them, be a leader, you never know what that magic dust can do.
Yeah. I mean, Marta
crazy things.
is not just a super talented player. Marta is an idea at this point. And so we'll see if that
when you have something to rally around, it really can unite a group. Also in this group is Nigeria. They've missed out on the last 2 Olympics, but they're back for their 4th try at a podium. Last summer, just a year ago, they advanced to the round of 16 in New Zealand and Australia for the World Cup before they fell to England on penalties. Darian, what are your expectations for Nigeria?
Seeing them build upon what we saw at the World Cup, I mean, they could have beat England. This is not an easy team to take down. I think they can be solid defensively. They do struggle in scoring goals, I think, because they are so defensive. They want to lock teams out, which works, but you're not going to advance unless you score. So seeing them maybe play a little bit riskier football is going to be fun to see. They have really creative, fast, physical, technical players on their team. I want to see them get into the attack a little bit more, challenge teams, and then be really Loctite defensively. I don't know if we'll see that. I don't have the utmost confidence, although I wish I did. But it's going to be interesting. I think they could play spoiler to one of these teams in a match.
How could they disrupt other teams' play?
I don't know. I think they'll be relying heavily, obviously, like on transition, trying to break up. I don't see them going out there and being like, let's aggressively press and attack. But with that being said, they're also Africa's most successful women's team. So they're fun to watch at the very least. I think they've got their work cut out for them.
Yeah.
But I think that they're always fun to watch.
Nigeria can disrupt the goal scoring. Like, that's a factor in the rankings for these groups and how you get out of them. Of course, the top 2, but the best 3rd place team, Nigeria could play spoiler in just sitting back and being a defensive side that doesn't allow Spain to run up. Yeah, they could not allow Japan or Spain to run up the score, and that changes the outcome of the group and who ultimately gets out, who's first, who's second, and that all plays a factor into the seeding once we get to the knockout rounds of the Olympics. Woo! It's fun. I love previewing this.